Attention all Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn radio listeners. The Odd to Newfoundland Paranormal Podcast brings you the best in East Coast esoterica on the first of every month. Together, we can keep it growing by sharing the show on social media, subscribing to the show wherever you may be listening to it from, and by leaving feedback about your favorite episodes. John certainly needs a friend like you to help make his dreams come true, minus the alien abduction dreams. That is not cool at all. The Odd to Newfoundland Paranormal Podcast. Always available, always free, always odd.
It's the Odd to Newfoundland. Ghostly greetings from your host, Jonathan. Mysteries, ghosts, monsters, and lore. East Coast esoterica and so much more. If it's odd to you, friend, it's on the Odd to Newfoundland.
Ghostly greetings from the oldest city in North America. I'm your host, John Mallard, bringing you the best in East Coast esoterica. You, my friend, have stumbled upon the Odd to Newfoundland Paranormal Podcast for the month of April 2019. Welcome to episode 69. You know, when you do a monthly podcast, you have to wait a very long time to get to episode 69. And, you know, it's 69. It's just funny. And like, I was going to say something clever, but I decided not to. I just, decided to leave it alone. I think you guys, get the point. It's episode 69. It's funny by itself. Sometimes we haven't got to push it. Welcome to episode 69 of your monthly paranormal variety show. Having you here is better than, the smell of the coffee aisle at the grocery store or that pile of assorted beers left in your fridge after our party. You want to know why? Because you're wonderful. A masterpiece. Beautifully made. Important to people because you're important to me. Highly favored by your creator, whether that is God or by the law of averages and physics working in tandem. You, my friend, are an oddball. And here on this show, you're family, and we are one. My goodness gracious. April 1st. April Fool's Day. I'm not saying any April Fool's jokes this year. It's not happening. Just leave it alone. By the time this episode drops, it'll be past 12 o'clock. The jokes will be done. I hope nobody pranked you too bad, though, this year. April 1st is always almost like a little rapid heartbeat type thing going on for me, though. Cause we're already 1/4 of the way through the year. Think about that for a second. 3 months in. 3 months in. Are you any closer to your dreams? Are you any closer to where you want to be in life? I hope so. And I hope that you know that because you download this podcast, you make me feel like I'm getting that much closer. Guys, so many wonderful subscribers out there. Thank you so much for hitting that follow button, that subscribe button from wherever you're listening to and supporting this podcast as we march on. Almost getting closer. Ever very closer to July, which would be 5 years on the air for the Odd to Newfoundland Paranormal Podcast. This month has seen me kind of get back on the bandwagon. Yep. You heard last month that my father rang the cancer treatment bell. He's done his treatments. Please God, he'll get good results from his PET scan now next week. And I'll keep you guys informed, of course, next month as to results. I'm hoping that they say no more chemo for you. So if you're out there right now and you got any prayers left in your heart for me and for my family, please let them go. Let them go. Give those prayers up. Let's hear them. Let's see Dad get that good bit of news next month as well. And this whole quarter of a year gone by already, this quarter of 2019 destroyed, ruined, means two things. Number one, I had to get back working out again. Yeah. Also, wrestling. Yeah, of course. WrestleMania is coming up. That's like next week and stuff. I'm all excited. Oh, God, guys, I'm going to be honest. I got a gym in my basement now. I've kind of shall we say, redone it down there to suit my needs. I put an elliptical in there, and I got like a nice matted floor now and a workout bench and free weights, and I got a TRX in the wall, which is like this suspension training thing. Like, if you guys have ever worked out in the gym and you see someone working out on this thing, you definitely got to give it a try. It's so much fun. And a great burn. But I'll say this, though, my God, I'm so out of shape compared to what I used to be down. Like, oh, my God, I can't believe it. So I've decided that month to month, I'm going to say on this podcast, how much weight I'm losing. And if I'm losing weight or inches or whatever, I'm going to put it in there. It's going to kind of keep me accountable. And if I fail to mention the workouts and stuff like that, you guys, bust my balls for it online, will you? Keep me accountable. Oh, my God, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm sitting here and I'm like trying not to laugh during this podcast because every time I laugh, my abs are like killing me. And I didn't even do any crunches. I did like a few burpees on the floor. And if anybody doesn't know what a burpee is, you're more than welcome to look in the, darkest bowels of a fitness magazine somewhere under the word hell and it'll come up. I don't even want to talk about my legs. Oh my God. Went to the doctor. Doctor's like, difficulty sitting? I'm like, check. Dread even the sight of stairs? I was like, check. Difficulty getting out of bed in the morning? I was like, check. Difficulty walking, Mr. Mallet? I said, check. He's like, my diagnosis is you put in a hell of a leg day. Why the hell do I torture myself? Like, people don't see what I look like. This is a podcast. It's audio. It's not visual. It's all for the wife anyway. I gotta stay pretty for her. Laura knows she's done it for me for almost a decade now. Goodness gracious. I hope your April is as awesome as mine. And I know some of our close friends here at the podcast have had a pretty great April, or I should say March. Dr. Laura, unfortunately, is unavailable this month for the Dr. Laura's Lair. She is actually out of commission. She's gone to a mad scientist convention in California, and they're trying their best to figure something out there. I'm not really sure what it is, but I'm hoping that when she comes back next month, she kind of lets us in on it. So she won't be here this month. Betty will be here a little later in the show, though, and of course we have our very special guest. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time once again to download this podcast. I'm almost done with my little catch-up ramble here, but I just want to let you guys know how much I do appreciate you taking the time. And, as this podcast climbs the charts, bingo bango, we're number 6 on Podbean this month. Put in the word paranormal, you know what I mean. You look down, there we are, right in front and center. And that, to me, is just a fantastic accomplishment because some of my heroes are up above me. And, guys I've been listening to for years myself. I'm also a podcast fan. So there you go. What are some of your favorite podcasts? Why don't you put it in the comments down below or even write me a message. Check it out. A couple other things too before I dive in and get this going here. Later in the month, if I do get something from Laura and she does send it, I'll put it up as a bonus episode. And, I'm thinking there might be some bonus content coming soon anyway, so keep your eyes open for that. It's nice this time of year to put in a little bit extra work on my own behalf. And who knows, maybe I'll revive an old favorite and bring it back to the show for an episode. I think that'd be kind of cool. Anyway, I digress. The month of April is behind us. April 1st. It's April Fool's Day. But we're not going any jokes. We're going to get serious, and we're going to dive into the paranormal news.
Somewhere between the funnies and the obituaries is, yes, the paranormal news.
A Michigan couple have captured a ghost on their nanny cam in their infant's room. Heather Brow and Joshua Higgins believe that the alleged specter may also be harming their baby. The couple, who live in Michigan's Highland Township, were left fearful for their young daughter's safety after filming a strange shape moving across the room next to her crib. It was chilling, said Higgins. It was literally a chill down your spine. To make matters worse, the couple are convinced that whatever is haunting their home is also responsible for scratching their child's face. It scares us that it could do something else, said Burrow. I mean, There was a morning I woke up and I felt like someone's hands were around my neck. This is scary stuff. Not physically just going after her. It feels like it's coming after myself as well. According to Higgins' father, the previous owner of the property committed suicide. The family have actually taken since to sleeping together in the same room while they wait to move out. And they're currently saving up some cash to do that. But, there was actually a local news, I think it was Channel 7 News actually covered this. And I'm going to go ahead and play it. This is really creepy, man. You got to hear this thing.
It is video of the unknown. What is it? Is it real? And what is it doing there? A family in Highland, Michigan believes their house is actually haunted and thinks something is harming their little girl. 7 Action News reporter Alan Campbell went to the home to see for himself.
It happened here in this room as 15-month-old Lily was inside her bed. Caught on camera, something walks in front of her crib, catching Lily's attention. Whatever it is, the family says it needs to go.
It's almost like she sees something that we don't.
It's an image Heather and Josh say is haunting their home.
It was chilling. It was literally a chill down your spine, like that what-if factor. Like, is this what I just saw?
Caught on the couple's nanny cam video a few weeks ago, what appears to be something moving in front of the baby crib.
I freaked out. I stopped what I was doing and I ran upstairs and I grabbed my daughter.
Heather says this so-called ghost scratched her daughter Lily and attacked her too.
It scares us that it could do something else. I mean, there was even a morning that I woke up and I had felt like something was around like someone's hands were around my neck.
A team of paranormal investigators came in and tried answering some of the couple's questions and concerns. Josh's father, Jim, says it may be someone who lived in this house before.
The story that I was told was the gentleman that lived here originally committed suicide, apparently, by jumping out this window. Which is, of course, one full story down.
The couple says they don't know why this so-called ghost is targeting them, but say they don't want any part of it.
It's not physically just going after her. It feels like it's going after myself, too.
I couldn't get an explanation out of it, So it's freaky, is what it is.
For now, Heather and Josh say they will stay inside this place with Lily until they're able to save up enough money to move out.
So why the heck did I just go into that instrumental? Let's do some mushrooms, man! But they're on Mars. Yeah, this is way out there. Jeez, guys. I'm moving on to the Mars mushrooms debate. This thing has sparked a lot of controversy. The claim that curiosity, something I talked about in my last podcast actually, photograph fungi growing on Mars has been met with a high degree of skepticism. I can't imagine why. The red planet is certainly no stranger to oddball conspiracy theories. However, his latest one is a little bit different in that it actually has a microbiology study to back it up. According to Dr. Regina Das of the Department of Microbiology at the School of Life Sciences, India, white spherical objects captured on camera by NASA's Curiosity rover could have actually be evidence of mushrooms, quote unquote, growing on the Martian surface. These are delightful. There are no geological or abiogenic forces on Earth which can produce sedentary structures by the hundreds which have mushroom shapes, stems, stalks, and shed what looks like spores on the surrounding surface. In fact, 15 specimens were photographed by NASA growing out of the ground in just 3 days.
I didn't realize it was this close to October.
Unsurprisingly, however, the study's conclusions have been met with considerable skepticism, not least because the idea of mushrooms could be growing out in the open on Mars seems incredibly unlikely. NASA has since commented by stating that the spherical objects are a mineral known as hematite. Suffice to say, the likelihood that the above image shows evidence of alien life is practically nil.
But I decided that on my Mars, there are mushrooms. Hey, human. How about a cup of tea? I had mine about a half hour ago, and I think I'm ready to, shall we say, chill? I can't stop shaking. Oh, you're still here? I thought you left. Why does your face look like a pony?
Time to move on to something a little bit more sane, shall we say. Okay. There's nothing sane about this next two stories because I'm going to have to take you back to the 90s first before we get into them. Got two stories here, guys. I think are going to be, well, X-Men worthy. Oh, yeah. Wolverine's healing factor may soon become a reality for us poor mortals. The extreme healing of the adamantium-clad comic book mutant may not be as far-fetched as it seemed, while Wolverine's ability to heal practically any wound within seconds is perhaps the least detached from reality of all the mutant powers in the X-Men comic books. Achieving such rapid regeneration in the world is a goal that continues to remain quite elusive. Now, though, researchers at Harvard University, good old Harvard, because you know they're a bunch of mutie lovers, are beginning to unlock the potential of rapid healing by studying the various ways. Oh, wait. What the hell is this? What? Oh my God. I can't unsee that opening of the old cartoon Marvel superheroes now. Great. Damn you, YouTube. You've ruined my vision of the new Avengers movie that drops this month. Ugh. In the case of 3 banded panther worms, scientists have been able to identify the specific DNA responsible for activating a master control gene called early growth response, or EGR for short, which is responsible for turning, get this, rapid regeneration on and off. Looks like these worms and salamanders and jellyfish out there are able to not only heal their wounds, but regrow entire parts of their own body, and we want to kind of recapture that ability and, well, put it in humans. By decreasing the activity of this gene, they were able to effectively disable this regenerative ability. Crucially, humans are also believed to carry EGR. However, its master gene is wired differently than it is in panther worms, meaning there is still some way to go to understand how it can be tweaked to make full body regeneration possible. If this inherent human trait can be harnessed, however, achieving Wolverine's regenerative powers in the real world may actually become a very serious possibility. And the fact that Deadpool also has those powers scares the hell out of me because, let's be honest, most people are probably going to want to be like Deadpool now more than Wolverine. Moving on to our next X-Men, or should I say X-Woman. A woman with a genetic mutation who doesn't feel pain. Have you heard about this one? This is just absolutely amazing. A great way to close the good old news out here. Jo Cameron didn't realize that her insensitivity to pain was anything unusual until she was, get this, 60 years old. While an inability to feel pain may seem like a godsend, it's a sensation that we rely on to tell us that something's wrong. Without it, you can be seriously ill or wounded and not even realize it. Cameron, who is now 71, had no idea that her immunity to pain was abnormal until she underwent a routine hand operation, and doctors noted that she did not seem to experience any kind of discomfort. Looking back, I realized I hadn't needed painkillers, but if you don't need them, then you don't question why you don't, she said. You are what you are until someone points it out. You don't really question it. I was just a happy soul who didn't realize there was anything different about me and probably saved a fortune on aspirin, let's be honest. Throughout her life, Cameron has experienced instances of injury that did not hurt at all. As a child, she broke her arm and didn't realize until it started to set in a strange angle. Later in life, she only realized that she was burning her hand on the stove when she started to smell the burning flesh. Delicious. She even described the sensation of childbirth as quite enjoyable. Childbirth is... You know what? This is the weirdest story I ever heard. There's no way childbirth is enjoyable, even if you don't feel anything. A genetic analysis later discovered 2 notable mutations responsible for a condition. In addition to her immunity to pain and anxiety, she also heals faster and experiences increased happiness. This may be the coolest human being that ever lived. Scientists are now hoping to harness the same mutation to help those suffering from chronic pain. People with rare insensitivity to pain can be valuable to medical research as we learn how their genetic mutations impact how they experience pain, said researcher James Cox. We would encourage anyone who does not experience pain to come forward and, probably go right to the Xavier Institute because you're a mutant freak. I can't believe it. I'm kind of jealous, though. What superpower do I have? Honestly, I can pretty much function on 5 hours sleep. I don't even think I'm a superhero until I get, my caffeine in me. Guys, we had a Michigan couple who captured a ghost on their nanny cam. Go check that out. It's all over YouTube. It is creepy, creepy, creepy. Awesome. We had, those mushrooms on Mars. What say you, Mervyn? Did you enjoy your mushrooms?
I'm tripping balls, John. Boom!
We also had two mutant gene, stories, really. We had Wolverine's healing factor maybe becoming a reality, and a woman who doesn't feel pain, guys. All these stories have been on to Newfoundland.
Greetings from Betty, your oracle, with words of wisdom for your consideration and enjoyment. Our topic for today is spring, and further to that, making room for spring. And you may ask yourself, how do we make room for spring? We've all heard of the typical traditional spring cleaning, purge, get rid of anything that if you haven't used it in 6 months or a year, get rid of it. We've all heard that. And yep, that is a really good way to get ready for spring. But also, we can get ready for spring in our heart. We've been through, and most of the world, this winter has been through a winter that's been harsh, cold, very cold, and in some places very unseasonable. And now, with the coming of April, we're seeing the leavings, what's left over from last winter. And some of what we're seeing on the ground right now, especially here in Newfoundland, in the North Atlantic, we're seeing the snow is gray. The snow is gray because it's old. It's been there since November, some of it. And it wants to leave as well and looks forward. It looks very forward to the rain coming to wash it all away. So when the rain comes in April, the old saying, April showers bring May flowers, April showers clean, wash the world clean. It's a beautiful time of the year. It's a beautiful time of the year to set intentions for what we want to happen for the rest of the year. In other words, make room for spring. So, I think today, more than just making room for spring, I think I want to take you on a little meditative journey. John keeps saying every month that I've brought you another meditation. I actually haven't done a meditation for you guys in a few months. So today I thought would be an opportune time. Let's do a meditation on getting ready for spring. And if you would, sit yourself comfortably, lie down, whatever position you want to be in right now. That's going to make you most comfortable and most relaxed. Just do that. I would like for you to lay your hands in your lap if you can, or by your sides, opened, palms facing upward. That's right. That's right. Now, close your eyes. Feel your breath as it travels in through your nostrils, down into your lungs. It fills your lungs. Feel it blowing. Feel the sensation. It's sort of like the wind. In and out. We can actually use our breath to clean inside of us, to clean away the cobwebs of winter. That's right. Our journey is going to begin in the early morning hours, just before daylight, when it's very dark and the world is not awake yet and still very calm. You have woken early and have decided to take a little walk because the weather is lovely today. It's calm, it's quiet, even though it's not day quite yet. We find a little stream. There's no ice, there's no snow. It's all gone. So we can walk along the shore on the grass that is just starting to come up. And you can just make out, is it green grass or is it still brown? You see your way through the path that's given you by a light that we can't quite explain where it's coming from. But you can see where you're walking. And you know this little path. You've walked this path many times. And now, this path feels totally different than it did before. You walked this path in the winter when the river was frozen and it was just a trickle. You could hear it. You couldn't quite see it. But now the ice has thawed, and so has your heart. Now you welcome the sound of the water. Ooh, and the birds starting to awaken. Because there, on the western sky, you can see a glimmer of light. As you look up above, you see the stars slowly starting to lose their shine because the sun is going to come up. Grandfather Sun loves every one of us, loves the earth, loves to bring us warmth and that feeling of wholeness and fullness. So as you walk along, and as the light to the west gets a little brighter and a little brighter, you hear the birds. And then you notice there's another path that leads away from the river. You walk towards it. And as you're walking, you can feel yourself protected. You feel safe. You feel happy. It's a beautiful way to start an early spring day. That's right. Walk quietly along. There you go. Away from the river. Up a little rise. Just a little rise. There's a little hill. And at the top of the hill, you decide to sit and just have a look around. And what do you see? If you look down at your own feet, what do you see? Do you see a golden glow coming from your body? The golden glow coming from your body is your body's own protection, is your spirit's own protection, your soul's own protection. And if you could see yourself in a mirror, you would see that your whole being is encased in this golden glow. So you almost look like an orb of golden light. Amazing things happening on this hill. The sun is starting just to crest now. You can see the top of her just starting to come over that rise. That's right. What a beautiful sight. Look up to the sky. See the colors that she has brought you. And I know I call our sun Grandfather Sun, and I'm referring to her as a she. How could a grandfather be a she? In the world of esoterica, grandfathers, grandmothers can change he and she at will. Now you're starting to feel the warmth of the sun. But as you look down at your own body, wow, you are glowing. Because you know how good this heat feels after that long, arduous winter. Yes, you had fun in the winter. You skied, you played in the snow. You enjoyed. Some did. Some hibernated through the winter. Now it's time to break out of your hibernation. Because you are glowing inside and out with the newness of spring. Spring is all about new beginnings. That's right. Now, where you are sitting, just look down at the ground. And you see new shoots of grass. Look, there's a crocus. And it's opening up to greet the sunshine. Just like your heart is opening up to greet the warmth of this beautiful season when everything renews itself. You notice the trees? Are there any trees where you are? Do they have new, fresh, beautiful green shoots? That's right. Now, as you look down from the hill that you're sitting on into a valley, that valley looks like it's filled with orbs, just like you, but they're all different colors. There's purple, blue, turquoise, yellow. These orbs are moving. They're just moving around, almost as if in a dance. What are they doing? Need you question, is it enjoyable? If it's enjoyable to watch, just keep watching. One of those orbs catches sight of you and invites you to join in. And you do. And it is a wonderful dance of spring. You and all your partners, your friends, all the relationships that you've had, all the good feeling people in your life are these orbs. And every single one of them is welcoming the beauty of this sunrise, knowing that the day that's coming is going to be equally as beautiful. We are making ready for a whole new season. A season of love. A season of light. And as old historians and old authors would say, spring is the time of year that turns a man's fancy to the female race. That's right. So even if you don't have a partner in your physical life, in actual fact you do, because that partner that you have is you. You have always partnered with yourself. Even on days when you feel so not happy. On days when things don't seem to go right. There's always that other side of you that will hold you and love you and will always be ready for spring. Always. And now, as the sun is even brighter, you can see some insects flying through the air. You can see birds. All the birds have come back home again. They've left their resting places to come home. What a beautiful, beautiful sound. Music of the ages. Birds, bird song, dancing, outside, in the early morning, under the early morning sunshine. The warmth permeating every cell of your being. That's right. Make room. Let it in. Let in all of the love that spring has to offer. No need to question. All is well. All will be well. And when you're ready, you decide to walk back up to that spot where you sat when you first noticed all of your other spiritual friends, all the spirits, all those beautiful orbs. They wave to you and they know that it's not a goodbye. It's just a see you soon. And you sit back down and watch them for another little while before resuming your walk back down the path where you get to the river again. And now the sun is glowing and the water is sparkling. Diamonds in the water. And just ever so lazily floating over rocks. They're gleaming in the sunshine. It is so beautiful. That's right. That's right. You can stay by this river as long as you like. And you can contemplate what you're going to do in your own home to make ready for spring. Opening the windows, letting that fresh spring air blow through, blow the cobwebs away, taking us out of our hibernation, making us feel the love that this beautiful time of the year brings. And now, I shall count you back from 5, 4, wiggling your fingers and toes, 3, 2, 1. Before you open your eyes, rub your hands together and put your hands over your face. Cover your face with your hands. Rubbing your hands will help bring energy in. And as you cover your face, energize the skin and your eyes, your mouth, your nose. Rub down through your neck, your torso, your whole body, right to your toes. And when you've finished, you can open your eyes. That's right. Spring is such a beautiful time of the year. And it is absolutely my favorite time. It has always been. So yes, we declutter. But we also make room in our heart. We put away what winter was and what winter brought. And we look forward to the next few months of spring leading into summer. Yes, and warm, warm weather. Thank you all for listening today. I hope you enjoyed that calming springtime meditation. For more about me and my work, I am Betty Collins. You can look at my personal Facebook page, which is Betty Collins' Facebook page, and I also have an E-Factor working Facebook page. If you want to contact me, you can contact me through there. I love my work, and I absolutely love doing these recordings for John. Back to you, John. Have a beautiful spring.
Attention all Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn radio listeners. The Odd to Newfoundland Paranormal Podcast brings you the best in East Coast esoterica on the first of every month. Together, we can keep it growing by sharing the show on social media, subscribing to the show wherever you may be listening to it from, and by leaving feedback about your favorite episodes. John certainly needs a friend like you to help make his dreams come true, minus the alien abduction dreams. That is not cool at all. The Odd to Newfoundland Paranormal Podcast. Always available, always free, always odd.
Hey guys and gals, welcome back to the Odd to Newfoundland Paranormal Podcast, your monthly paranormal variety show. Have you ever felt like you've been here before? Seriously, think about that for a second. Is there something to reincarnation? Has our soul been here in the past, while it's been here in the future, or maybe even in the present? I don't know how to even map this stuff out because we're just such linear beings. But tonight I have someone on my show who has a long history of paranormal experiences starting at age 5 and who's now 74 years young. She's had past life memories, many of which reveal in her book, Finding Margaret, A Case for Reincarnation. She also has a new book, Crossing the Bridge from Life to Life, in a workbook for people who are interested in exploring their past lives and how their past impacts their current incarnation. Some of her paranormal experiences which manifest in either dreams or visions include the airline crash of Orly, France in June 1962. She was 17 in that one. The bombing of the city of Atlanta during the 1996 Olympics, and of course the fall of the World Trade Center in 9/11. She's also a published author and writer about health and wellness. Past lives have dovetailed into my current life and career choices, says her, and because of her experiences, she's on a mission to teach others how their past lives do impact their current incarnations. You know what? I've got a wonderful guest, the author of Finding Margaret, A Case in Reincarnation. You guessed it, her name is Margery Phelps. Margery, how are you tonight?
Good evening, John. Great to be with you. I'm doing great.
But you know what? This might not be the first time we've been together. We might have been together 1,000 times before. Tell me a little tiny bit about what you believe reincarnation is.
Well, to me, it's real simple. Our souls are eternal. And if our souls are eternal, we have to ask ourselves, where have we been? And for many of us, we can say we've been here before and we're coming back again. That's what happened to me. That's my experience with it. Other people have different interpretations. There's lots of religious theology and dogma about it, but it's really simple. Our souls are eternal. We have the opportunity to incarnate many, many times. The famous German philosopher Nietzsche said, it's no more surprising to be born twice than it is to be born once.
Interesting stuff. You know, you talked a little tiny bit, when you reached out to me, you did chat a little tiny bit about some past life memories you've had. And I'd love for you to kind of unfurl that just a little tiny bit for us. But before we jump into that, we got to kind of know who Margery Phelps actually is. Where do you live, Margery? Who are you? So that we know who you've been when you get into that later.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm an identical twin. My twin sister crossed the bridge into eternal life January 31st, 2 years ago. But I still consider myself an identical twin. She's just not on this earth plane right now. I was born in Atlanta. I've lived overseas for 3 years. I lived in Germany and traveled all over Europe. Majored in journalism in college. And after that, I couldn't earn a living. It was hard to earn a living as a journalist. So I went to business school, learned how to be a secretary. and took an accounting class, which I absolutely loved. Many years later, I ended up going back to college to get an associate degree in accounting. So that's how I support myself, doing accounting. Although my first love and passion is writing.
A woman after my own heart. I love to write too. It's just so darn hard making a living at it. And, I'm glad you found something you do enjoy to do. Listen, accountants are really, really important, especially when it comes to tax time. My God.
Right, exactly.
We all
I'm really blessed to have some great clients. Everybody says, when are you going to write a book about accounting? I said, you know what? I really could.
You know what you should say? Well, I got no one to do the books for me. Tell me a little tiny bit about your case for reincarnation. You talked here about 3 different incarnations you had. Tell me a little tiny bit about all 3. And if it takes up the whole half hour, it's okay. Go ahead.
Well, actually, my history of reincarnation goes back to about age 3 or 4, which is when most children have past life memories. And the way it manifested for me, I started having dreams of this little lady. She was a real dear little lady, and she was always chasing me and saying, please sit down, I've got something important to tell you. Please sit down, I've got something important to tell you. Well, it was the dream repeated over and over again, and I was scared. I didn't know who this little lady was. My mother had always told me not to talk to strangers, so I was having this dream, and this lady was a stranger, and I wouldn't sit down and talk to her. But I never forgot her. And many years later, when I was in my mid-40s, back in college, doing that accounting work, professor walked into class one night and slammed the book down on the table, and I looked up, and there was my little lady. She was standing right there in front of him. I mean, she was as real to me in that vision as my computer is sitting here in front of me tonight. And she was holding her arms out in front of him, and she said, he's special, protect him. Well, I thought I had totally lost my mind.
Like you would.
I thought I'd popped a cork.
Popped a cork, that's a new one. People tell me that stuff all the time. Continue.
So, anyway, then I started having dreams about him. I ultimately dropped the course because I thought, well, if I get away from this man, maybe I'll quit having these nightmares about this total stranger that I don't know. The dreams were very troubling. They ended up lasting for 2 years. I thought I was crazy, so I went to a psychiatrist, and he listened to my story for 2 hours, and he said, this is the most fascinating thing I've ever heard. He said, you're not crazy. You need to be working with a parapsychologist. And I said, a what? And he said, a parapsychologist, somebody that knows about dreams and all that sort of stuff. And I said, well, I don't know any parapsychologists. And he said, well, there's one down in West Georgia. Well, I was living in Atlanta. And the parapsychologist he was talking about was a very famous man, Dr. William Roll, who was down at West Georgia College in Carrollton, Georgia, which was about a 2-hour drive from me. I said, I can't be driving for 2 hours. So I put up with the dreams and nightmares a few more weeks, and then I thought, maybe I need to call around and find a parapsychologist. So long story short, I got linked up with a parapsychologist, a man, a PhD in psychology, who did a lot of parapsychological research. His name was Dr. Carl Shank. And the first time I went to see Dr. Shank, I was in tremendous pain. I had, about a year before, I had lost the use of my left arm for no known reason. No doctors, no neurosurgeons could figure out why I had lost the use of my arm. And so, seeing the deplorable physical condition I was in, Dr. Shank said, do you mind if I hypnotize you? And I thought, well, this is great. He'll hypnotize me and maybe take away the pain for a while. So I slipped right into a trance. And the first thing he said was, go to the source of Margery's dreams about the teacher and the source of her pain and her disabled arm. And the next thing you know, I'm babbling. Now, he's taping it. He taped it, audio and video taped all my sessions. And I'm babbling in a voice that's not mine about this little lady in Thompson, Georgia, taking care of this man when he was an infant. So it's a long, complicated story, but her name was Margaret. And when I came out of the trance, he asked me to think about it, who she was. And, I thought, oh, surely I'm possessed. Went back the next week, and he said, did you think anything more about that lady? And I said, No, but I'm scared to death I'm possessed. I mean, why would I know the whole life story and all the children and the husband of this little lady I've never met in a town I've never been to? And he said, well, let me ask you something. He said, do you believe the soul is eternal? And I said, sure, the soul is eternal. He said, well, where did it come from? And I said, well, I guess God made it when my mom was pregnant with me and my sister and put it in her soul. And he said, well, so God created you when your mom was pregnant with you. You're not eternal. And I said, oh, well, I guess not. Eternal means always was and always will be, right? And he said, yes. And then he paused a moment and he said, so you think you are eternal? I said, yeah, I know I'm eternal. And he said, so let me ask you, where have you been? And that was the great aha moment in my life. I said, oh my gosh, I know all about this little lady that I've been dreaming about since I was 3 years old, because that was my prior incarnation. And he said, that's the simplest explanation. Ultimately, I did find her. I did verify that she was everything I said she was. And a picture of me at Margaret's grave is on the back cover of my book, Finding Margaret.
You know, one thing that you mentioned that time that really struck me was the idea that if God was to put my soul in me when I'm in utero, you're absolutely right. How in the heck could I be eternal? Eternal means forever. And by definition, that kind of eliminates that. That's a really interesting take, Margery. That kind of opened my eyes a little bit. That's pretty cool. I like that. Interesting message. Tell me a little tiny bit about some of the circumstances of these dreams. Like, do you feel in your heart like something's going to happen to you while you're asleep? Or is this something you get only when you're meditating? Like, how exactly does this work? When do these visions come to you?
I've had ESP or I've been psychic, which I really don't like that word. I wish somebody had come up with a better definition of it. But
yeah, I know. I feel the same way about ghost hunter as you do about psychic. There's just so much crap rolled onto it. You know what I mean? It's more of a stigma attached to it. So yes, I can totally, even though they both mean the same thing, you know what I mean? Like, I'd say I'm a paranormal investigator, but I am a ghost hunter too. And, you know, you may have some, you know, ability to go back in time, so to speak, but, you know, you are still a psychic as well. You know what I mean? It's, it's just, there's so much stigma attached to those two, titles. Anyway, continue.
Well, it goes back to ancient, Greece. In all the sessions, I went to Dr. Shank, ended up going to him for 2 years to resolve the issues around this teacher and the tragedy that I was supposed to prevent. But in one of my past lives, back around between 5 and 400 BC, which is pretty far back, I was a seer. In other words, I was like a fortune teller, and had a very high calling to protect my homeland, and I failed in that because I dallied around with a man, and there was an invasion, and that entity that I was at that time fled Greece and went to Egypt and lived out the rest of her days in Egypt alone. She realized that she wasn't supposed to be in a relationship with anybody. She had to live her calling. And that dovetails so perfectly into my life now. And when I started looking at all my past lives and how they've impacted this life, I thought, this is a powerful lesson. It's not just for me. I need to share this with other people so they can look at their life and say, oh, I'm doing this now because of something I did in the past. Now, a lot of people call that karma, but people misunderstand karma. Karma is a path or a mission that we're on. So, for example, in ancient Greece, I failed to live up to use my skills as a psychic and a seer to protect my homeland. So in this incarnation, I chose that path again to protect people that I loved and cared about. So it wasn't a sin. It wasn't a bad thing. It was just the path that I chose. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, we want to kind of differentiate between the idea that karma, like you'll hear, that's good karma or that's bad karma. And the reality of it is there really isn't so much as a karma type thing. What you're talking about is completely different. You're talking about actual points in time. And, it's more linear. From your perspective, there is a linear progression of time. That's the only thing that's really constant here. And you're saying that you've been on this planet in multiple forms at multiple different times, and you're not in trouble for something you did 5 past lives ago. But the interesting thing is, you may still be affected by that, correct?
Exactly. Well said, John. Well said. That is absolutely perfect. Yes.
Sometimes it's hard to get this stuff out, and the only reason why I can do that is because I know people who do what you do. And they've dumbed it down enough for me to understand it. Anyway, continue.
Well, you know what? It's not really complicated. I mean, I'm just an ordinary person. It's just, but I try to put it in terms that people can understand. For example, I've always loved children, especially babies.
Oh.
And I write about health and wellness for children, and I've published several books for children with cartoon characters to teach them about health and nutrition in an entertaining manner. Well, in my prior life as Margaret had 10 children. Most of her children died in infancy or early childhood.
Oh.
So you see how my passion now to take care of children, to write and teach them about health and wellness, is dovetailed into Margaret's life, or Margaret's life is dovetailed into mine with this overwhelming love of children and the need to keep them healthy.
How interesting is that? And it kind of makes me wonder what my past life is too. I'm actually a foster parent to critically or medically fragile and critically ill children. So I wonder what was going on in my past life to make me do this. I also have a crazy obsession with professional wrestling. I love it. So far I was like some crazy babysitter and professional wrestler like thousands of years ago. I can't really reconcile the past of where I'm to.
Yeah, well, yeah, and you know what? Did I send you a PDF of the book Crossing the Bridge?
No, you never, but I would certainly love to have it.
Oh, I'll be glad to send it to you. When you start going through that book and you start answering the questions that I raised, you say, that's why I love something. You'll start uncovering ideas and come to realize that there's a link between your past lives and your current life and your likes, not only your likes, but your dislikes, things that you're repelled by and things that you're drawn to. And looking at my own life, and I'm just an ordinary person, there's nothing special about me. But looking at how all my past lives have impacted this life. For example, the paralyzed arm and the extreme pain I was in, that went back to a past life in Wyoming. And guess who else was in that past life?
Who?
The teacher.
Interesting.
So not only, and guess what? And one of my conversations with him, because I had a lot of trouble talking to him, but we did find out that he was born in the town where Margaret lived. And he was born before Margaret died. So it's very likely that she was his caretaker. Because the last thing she said before she died was, who's going to take care of the baby?
It kind of makes me wonder. I've heard this idea tossed around before by other people who are into reincarnation, but this idea of soul groups. We all have a soul, and there's multiple souls, and those souls are all connected to each other, and we somehow find each other on this planet. Do you believe in that?
Definitely. There's a lot of people are looking for soulmates and things like that. To me, a soulmate is somebody I've been in school with before. If life is a school, you go to first grade and Sally's sitting next to you, and all of a sudden you're seniors in high school and Sally's been with you the whole time you've been in school. Well, our soul groups are the same way. They're people that we reincarnate with over and over again to enhance our life experiences and to help us with our learning. And since I have opened up to this, it's amazing the people who have come into my life who we have immediately connected with. And they'll say, I know you. And I'll say, and I know you too, but not from this life. And they say, no, I knew you in another life.
Interesting stuff. You always kind of wondered, you know, what was my wife, my husband, and I was her husband or wife back in the day? You know, I always kind of wondered how that worked. Is it possible to change gender when you reincarnate?
Oh, sure. As a matter of fact, and I'm glad you brought up that point. One of the reasons I decided to step out of my comfort zone and talk about this is because I saw an interview several years ago on the news. It was an hour-long interview with Bruce Jenner before he went through his sex change operation to become Caitlyn.
Mm-hmm.
And in that interview, Bruce Jenner said, I can't remember a time in my life when I didn't want to be a girl. And all these people suffering with these transgender and sexual identity crises are simply over-identifying with a past life. They need past life therapy. They don't need to be butchered on an operating table.
Interesting stuff.
It just breaks my heart to see how these people are suffering. They're not suffering just physically. They're suffering emotionally and spiritually.
What about the people who are said to be two-souled? You know, I think the Native Americans talked about, people of the bisexual range. They talk about having two souls, and they should be well respected for having two souls. Is it possible that could happen?
Well, I'm not that familiar with it. I've read a little bit about that theory. It's my theory that we're supposed to love and respect everybody for who they are and where they are. Now, I'm not talking about somebody who wants to cut your head off, but,
No.
you have to respect your enemies too. But I'm talking about on a day-to-day basis, how many of us encounter people and we make a judgment?
That's right.
And we shouldn't be doing that. You know what? When I see a real fat lady at Walmart, and I shop at Walmart all the time, you know what my first thought is about a really obese lady I see shopping at Walmart?
What?
You know what my view of that lady is? She was a poor starving child in Africa in her life.
Now, isn't that interesting? So let's say there's somebody who's, I don't know, a bodybuilder in this life. Could it have been that they were sick and frail, maybe, in a past life?
Exactly.
That's a really interesting way. It also brings me back to another idea, the idea of yin and yang. We can't have one thing without the other. We can't have light without dark. You know what I mean? And
Right.
there's definitely a duality with all these reincarnations and stuff like that. But there's also progress. And, here's the reality. If this is really linear and this is God's plan, what can you really pull from your previous incarnations on this planet that are helping you with your current?
Exactly. And like in my situation, because of that seer in ancient Greece, in this life, I chose to be psychic and to have ESP to guide and protect not only myself, but others, and to see tragedies and try to prevent them, like I did with this situation with this teacher. And that was quite an undertaking. And I feel like I really succeeded at it, but it was a 3-year ordeal. But, I've seen plane crashes before they're going to happen. My mother was supposed to be on a plane that crashed in Orly, France in June of 1962. She wasn't. But unfortunately, I was 17 years old and I didn't know how to prevent it. I just knew that there was going to be a disaster and all these people from Atlanta were not going to make it home. They didn't. That's a terrible burden to put on a 17-year-old.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, which brings back to another thing. This is not the first time I've heard of that. We don't just reincarnate and automatically incarnate somewhere else. There might be time in between, correct?
Yeah. I mean, some people say you don't reincarnate for several hundred years. Some people say you reincarnate immediately. I think each soul makes its own decision. I mean, there's been lots of research by Carol Bowman and Dr. Ian Stevenson and Richard Martini and a bunch of other people that are doing this research that show that many times an entity or a soul will reincarnate immediately if it's died traumatically. Now, there's cases in India of children who have immediately reincarnated into neighboring towns and gone back and identified the person that killed them in their prior incarnation. And in one case, there was a conviction.
The fall of the World Trade Center is one of the visions you've had, and it's probably one of the scariest moments I've ever witnessed myself in person. I'll never ever forget that day. I'm here in Newfoundland, by the way. We're up eastern Canada, and I was homesick that day from school, and I was lying on the couch downstairs watching TV, and my dad ran downstairs really quick, and he said, "My God, Johnny, turn on the TV. There was a giant plane crash in New York. It was a big accident." And we actually turned on the TV, and we're like watching, like, oh my God, this is horrendous. And then we seen the second plane hit live, and it was just shock. It was like, oh my God, is that another plane? And then the guy in the news said, we are under attack. I mean, that's my memory of this. But you're saying that you had a vision of this before it happened?
Yes, and it started, many times my visions are a year or two out, but this was like in July prior to that September.
Okay.
And I was at a social function with a group of people, and somebody was talking about a group of people going to New York, and I said, oh no, nobody should be in New York the first 2 weeks of September. No, they can't go. It's going to be a disaster. And that night, I started having the dreams, and in the dream, I was standing on the east side of the East River. So you know how New York is laid out? It's got the East River on the east side, and then the other side is the Hudson River.
Yep.
And where they merge, go down into the Bay, the channel there is where the Manhattan is, Lower Manhattan. I was standing on the east side. It was a beautiful, bright, blue sky day, and I was looking across at Manhattan. And my dreams are very simple. It's usually either a question or a very brief statement. And the question I kept getting in my dream was, what are you missing? And I would stand there and I'd look and say, okay, there's the Empire State Building, there's the Chrysler Building, there's the such and such building, there's the such and such building. And I was looking and I'd say, what am I missing? What am I missing? The afternoon after 9/11, of course I had the TV on all day long, and just hysterical. I was in tears. There was view, and a reporter was standing on the east side of the East River, looking towards Lower Manhattan, and they panned the skyline, and he said, when it got down to the very lower end where the World Trade Centers were, he said, when you look at the Manhattan skyline now, there's something missing.
Oh, now isn't that interesting? You know, one thing I've always noticed with visions and really with a lot of things when it comes to paranormal, like me, I'm into the paranormal investigating stuff. Very rarely are things thrown in your face. They're almost always like they're a riddle. Do you know what I mean? Does that have something to do with the fact that we're not allowed to meddle with the way things are supposed to go?
That's a good question. Nobody's ever asked me. I think in many instances, yes. I think in some situations where we can keep working at it, like I did with this teacher, to prevent another tragedy befalling my beloved city of Atlanta, which I did. And the way it all came about, like I said, it took 3 years. It was 3 years of riddles and dreams and visions. And I really don't know how I lived through it. Somehow or another I did. Because that tragedy was supposed to be prevented. And I think the reason it was to show me the power of my dreams. And I'm not unique. Anybody can have these dreams. But we don't listen. We don't listen to our higher self.
Do you think deja vu might play into that? We've all had deja vu from time to time, and it's a very common thing people talk about, but like, you know, we're suddenly in a conversation or we find ourselves in a situation, and the next thing you know, oh my God, I feel like I've been here before. Oh, I know what this person's going to say next. Does this tie into this at all?
Oh yeah, I'm very much. For example, when I went to Ireland a couple of years ago, I knew everything was in Dublin, and I kept thinking, well, I've been here before. It's obviously I've been here before because I know my way around. I didn't take taxis or buses except for the sightsee because I knew where I was going. To the point that strangers would stop me on the street and say, "Ma'am, can you tell us how to get to such and such?" And I was here by myself.
You have lots of fun here in Newfoundland. Let me tell you, even if you are psychic, you're still not going to be able to find your way around Newfoundland because it was all our roads are built on old horse paths. I'm not even kidding. We're the oldest city in North America. Now we're completely modernized, obviously. We're like a little mini Iceland, really. But anyway, like, everything's paved, don't worry. But, like, none of the streets make sense. There's 8-way stops. Like, you'll have lots of fun here. In closing, I can't believe a half hour's gone already. It's just been a really interesting conversation. In closing, is there any message you'd like to pass on to people about their current incarnation? Is there anything you'd like to mention to them about maybe some of the stuff they're going through? Maybe there's a reason behind it. Do you know what I mean? Is there anything you'd like to pass along to anybody out there who's really interested in the topic?
Well, be open-minded. And first, accept the fact that you are eternal. And if you are eternal, then you've had many, many life experiences. And those past experiences all are impacting you in one way or another in this life. And once you embrace that, even if you don't know exactly what it was, you say, aha, I feel that way because I must have known it in the past. It gives you an overwhelming sense of peace and comfort. And you quit questioning things so much, and it helps you get out of what I call the ego state into the spirit state, which is where we all need to go if we're ever going to have peace.
Guys, the book's name is Finding Margaret, A Case for Reincarnation. The other book is Crossing the Bridge from Life to Life. Of course, you can find out more about her work and her books, www.margeryphelps.com. That's www.margeryphelps.com. It's kind of like Margery Helps, but you put a P in there. That's a good way to kind of spell it. There's also www.findingmargaret, FindingMargaret.com, and as well, CherokeePublishing.com. Guys, her name is Margery Phelps. She's been a wonderful guest. Oh man, maybe I've had her on a radio show before in a past life. Who knows? Thanks so much for coming on, Margery.
Thank you so much, John. It's been great being with you.
Well, the time to say goodbye is upon us. But don't worry, you can keep track of the Odd the Newfoundland Paranormal Podcast very easily. It's available on Stitcher, iTunes, Podbean, and TuneIn Radio. Just look for the Odd the Newfoundland Paranormal Podcast banner. Of course, if you'd like to keep up to date, you can always check out the Odd the Newfoundland Paranormal Podcast Facebook page, drop a like, and every single time a new show goes up, you'll be notified. You can also follow me, John Mallard, on Twitter at ODDTONFLD. That's Odd to Newfoundland. From the oldest city in North America, I bid you adieu from the Odd to Newfoundland Paranormal Podcast.